this episode is all about guilt. I talked a little bit about it in the last episode, I just touched on it, but I realised that it's actually a very, very big emotion that gets in the way of us looking after ourselves. So this episode is all about what do you do when guilt is in the way of you putting your self-care and looking after yourself to the forefront. Because often that is the thing that gets in the way. People that are on the verge of burnout or are likely to burn out are those kind of people that tend to put their minds into somebody else's mind. So they're very insightful and intelligent, but instead of thinking how they are feeling, what they need and what they want, they often are thinking, what does my management team want? What does my staff need? What does my family need? What does my partner need? So they're very used to suspending their own needs and wants. And that's a lovely characteristic if it doesn't start working against you. And of course it will if you don't put yourself first, at least sometimes. So knowing that guilt is one of the things that really wreaks havoc with our lives, and particularly with people who are on the verge of burning out or breaking down, I'm sure that part of you just wants to like switch off or do something else, because it's one of those subjects. I think people think, oh, you know, as soon as you say guilt, people feel it, right? It's a bit like don't talk about the pink elephant in the room, and then that's all you can think about. So I get it. It's not the sexiest subject in the world, but it will be the thing if you deal with it over time and build a relationship with your guilt. And the pointlessness of it, quite frankly, is often the case. But if you deal with the relationship that you have with guilt, you've got your very best chance of looking after yourself. And I'm kind of like, I know that there's loads about self-care, but in my mind's eye, I try to think of it as looking after yourself, because that's really what our responsibility is. From about the age of 14, 15, 16 and beyond, our job as human beings is to look after ourselves, is to learn to look after ourselves and then maintain looking after ourselves forever, because nobody else is going to do it for us. And so often the overwhelming symptoms of burnout and breakdown, for instance, they're really symptoms that are trying to look after us. It's like they're trying to say, hey, stop the 70-hour week type of thing, stop the 50-hour week if it comes to it. So if you see the symptoms as useful and they're delivering to us what we need to attend to, then we don't have to fall out with ourselves about it, and not build a wall of guilt around it either. So one of the things I've found is the most useful way of overcoming guilt that's in the way of you looking after yourself is to understand that it's actually our responsibility to look after ourselves. And when we don't, for whatever reason, because we've become habituated to not doing so, if we don't look after ourselves, we're really asking other people to do it for us, right? So if we are overwhelmed all the time and we're angry, cross or rageful, dismissive, we're actually asking the people around us to look after us more than we're looking after ourselves, or certainly to deal with our gripiness and our grumpiness at best, right? So it's a responsibility to look after ourselves. It's not a luxury. It's not just a self-care plan. It's a responsibility, and we owe it to ourselves primarily and to the people that we care about and impact in our daily lives. So we owe it to our families, our partners, our colleagues, our staff, people at the supermarket that you're suddenly furious with because they're not hurrying up, or however the symptoms of overwhelm are coming out in you. So if you think about when the guilt shows up, and all the guilt wants to do is stop you in your tracks and give you a hard time, like it really has no value at all. Conscience, I'm all for. Have a conscience. When you don't feel good about something you've done or you don't feel proud of it, okay, feel that and then move on. But guilt just lasts for years, even decades. sometimes, but actually doesn't move anything on. True responsibility does move stuff on. Take responsibility for yourself, your actions, how you feel, what you do and what you don't do, and then you impact the world differently, and I believe in a better way. So if we can move the guilt aside for a while, the new action in burnout and breakdown is to allow some inaction. I often see people will use their symptoms, their ever-growing symptoms, and sometimes the breakdown itself, the absolute rupture in mental health and the physical collapse, they'll use that as their guide to stopping or slowing down. Well, usually it's stopping because they're now on their knees, yeah? So if we get the symptoms quick enough and we can make adjustments, which I know isn't, it's not easy for people to do that because we're in a culture of moving on and being busy. But if you can make the adjustments and make your new acting upon your symptoms as slowing down and stopping some things in your diary just not necessary, but are creating noise and stimuli that you don't need. So it's like, how do you allow yourself to be inactive sometimes? Because when you're full up, and that's what the symptoms of burnout are, they're just saying, look, I'm neurologically full, I can't take another thing. It's just telling you, slow down or stop for a while. And as I was saying in the last episode, if you slow down and stop quick enough, then you save yourself from years off. So now, 2 weeks now or a month now will save you years off in the future. Because if you ignore your symptoms, if you ignore what's going on, if you ignore that you're already full and at your bandwidth, your body or your mind will take you down. So it's really important to have a relationship with yourself that's about being a responsible adult, knowing that your symptoms are delivering to you that you need to do something, act upon it and allow some inaction. That's really important. Slow down or stop for a time and allow yourself to make adjustments. And it's so vital, the whole idea of adjusting to your symptoms, to what your what your life is demanding of you, what you don't need to do, how you can eradicate that. That is your best chance of avoiding burnout, and it's also your best chance of a quick recovery too. I hope that was helpful. Do subscribe wherever you're listening, and please stay in touch. It's great to hear how your recovery journeys are going, and if you've caught yourself on the verge of burnout, people can really learn a lot from your stories. So hope you have a great day.